Hey everyone, Maze here, bringing you episode 6 of Waking the Sleeping Demon, my DePaul dynasty. In this episode, we're going to finish out the games on Selection Sunday and then watch the Selection Sunday show. Also, a few things that were asked for by some of you that have been watching these videos that you want to see in this video before we get to the postseason. But to start this one off, I want to quickly just recap DePaul's season. And then from there, we'll get into some games and get into Selection Sunday. Let's do it. Start by just looking at team stats here. As you can see, we're lucky in that many of the players that contributed to this year's team are returning. And of course, we are losing our best player, Javon Freeman Liberty. He'll be graduating after this season. He gave us 14 points, 3 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 1.5 steals, had a fantastic year. Only shot 30% from 3, but otherwise was a very efficient scorer for us. Played in only 18 games, dealing with that injury mid-season. That was tough. I think our record would be better if we had him early in Big East play. But without him, we had some players step up. Players like Marquise Jacobs, who ends the year with an injury he'll be taking into the offseason, but still scored over 10 points a game, only starting 14 games and only averaging 18 minutes a game. So that is the spark plug we needed and will need off the bench next year. What we need from Jacobs is to improve defensively. He's a little undersized, but someone we're excited about because what he can give us going forward on the offensive end. Also very excited about sophomore guard Jalen Terry. The Oregon transfer came in and at the end of the season really stepped up. And there were moments where he was the best player on the floor. We need to see more of that. That's huge going forward. So I would expect he's our best player next year and is coming in as definitely the favorite to lead that backcourt. The player who I think will likely join him in the backcourt is Ahmad Bynum. He only started one game and only played in about 11 minutes a game, but played in the majority of games this year and is someone that I'm really high on his future. Chicago native, was a top 100 prospect at one time during his recruiting. Someone I'm really looking forward to next year and beyond. As for the other seniors that we'll be losing, Kavasi and McCauley, Darius Hall, Brendan Favre. McCauley and Hall played in every game. They were reserve players, played about 10 minutes a game. But McCauley late in the season was really great for us off the bench. Him and Grant Foster were definitely our best bench players by the end of the year. So good to see overall. The team definitely took a step in year one under Kenny Payne. And what I'm about to show you shows that the offense right now definitely ahead of the defense. A quick look at the insights. And the story at the bottom there, we have a top 100 offense, but a bottom 100 defense. That's what we have to change. With Kenny Payne, I would have expected the opposite. I would have thought this was a good defensive team. DePaul actually was pretty good defensively last season under Dave Leto. So I would have thought that would have continued, but instead it was the offense that took a step forward and the defense that really struggled. Shooting numbers were average across the board, but we have to improve as a free throw shooting team. 8.3 steals per game is a pretty good number. And also, we just need to get a little more active on the boards. Averaged almost 30 a game. That's not going to be good enough, especially in the Big East when we take on some big teams, some teams with size. We're going to have to get tougher, bigger, more physical on the boards, even with a style we play where, we don't always crash the boards. We still need to wind up with more rebounds per game. And with the team sheet, as you can see, we really struggled with the better teams on our schedule. Best win was a home win against St. John's by 12. Best road win was that Seton Hall win. Both were quad 2 wins, but otherwise 2-12 in quad 1 and 2 games. We're pretty good against bad teams. We did have that loss to South Dakota State, that first game without Freeman Liberty. But otherwise, this season I expected. This is year one of a rebuild, 12-19 overall. We're not quite ready to compete with the top end of the Big East, but we're getting there. I see some signs of life, especially with a young roster that's returning so much for next season. That has me excited, along with a very good recruiting class. So this offseason is going to be a lot of fun. We bring those recruits in, start to think about the future. I've got some good ideas on how I want to get that information to you in the offseason, but we still have postseason basketball to play. We still have March Madness. So now let's get to that. First, as it was requested in the last video, here are your current top 5 for the Norton Award. That's the nation's top player. And right now, Ochai Agbaji is the favorite, the junior guard out of Kansas, averaging 24 points, 6 rebounds a game. He's been fantastic. The freshman Trey Kaufman has been awesome for Purdue, really stepped up. Purdue expected to be good, but it wasn't because of Trey Kaufman. He's really been a surprise for them and given them 20 and 11 a game. The double-double machine has been awesome for them. Chris Vaught, the Wisconsin big man, he's actually a grad transfer from Cincinnati, started his college career at Northern Kentucky. So this is his third stop and definitely playing his best basketball. 17 points, 11 rebounds, 2.5 blocks per game. He's been great for them. I would expect he does start for them next year, but if he gives them numbers like that, Wisconsin could be in for a special year. And you can say the same about Tamar Bates, the freshman guard. It says sophomore here. He's sophomore in the game, but that's just because I wanted to make sure that he was going to the league, and he is. He's going to be going to the NBA after this season, after a great year, giving them 18, 5, and 5 for the Hoosiers. He's been fantastic. And finally, Maryland senior Aaron Wiggins, the best player on the best team. He's been averaging 17 points, 4 assists, and 6 rebounds a game. Just a do-everything guard. If he does decide to return to school, I think will be up for national awards because he will be one of the better returning players in college basketball. Wiggins is fantastic and will be leading likely a 1-seed Maryland into the NCAA tournament. Also requested out of the last episode was a look at the Pac-12 conference tournament. I said I would go through the Power 5 and didn't go through the Pac-12. That's on me. Now, I don't have as many edited rosters in the Pac-12. I did edit all of UCLA's roster and a majority of Oregon's roster. Wanted to make sure Nate Biddle, the top freshman, was on the roster for Oregon. As you can see, the Ducks had a good year, just lost by 1 to Arizona in the semifinals. Arizona moving on to the finals of the Pac-12 tournament. They'll be taking on Washington State, surprisingly. The Huskies won an Apple Cup matchup in the semis against the 1-seed Huskies. 79-75, the Cougars move on. So a 5-7 matchup in the Pac-12, not what people expected. Another thing that folks didn't expect was how bad UCLA was this year. UCLA came in my mind, as a top 5 team in the country, and they didn't play like it all year. They had some injuries early in the year. The freshmen were not as good in the game as you would expect them to be in real life. But they have another solid recruiting class coming in. They will be losing players like Juzang off this roster, but this is a team, they're going to end the year with a losing record. That's very surprising. I know UCLA usually in draft day sports is a top 10 team, but not in this dynasty. UCLA really struggled this year. As you can see, offensively was kind of the issue. They only scored 43 against Oregon. Just a bad performance, but kind of rounds out a bad year for them. We can quickly look at the final standings in the Pac-12. So in the Pac-12, 6 teams finished with 20 wins. You have also a very good Stanford season, 18-13. Looking by net rankings, actually your best teams in the conference are probably Utah and Oregon, Washington State as well, all 20-win teams. Arizona State, a 21-10 team. They're actually right on the bubble because the strength of schedule, especially in the non-conference, not very good. Also ending the year 7-3 was good, but a couple tough losses end of the year. I would be interested to see if they make the tournament. That's big for Bobby Hurley. I know he's on the hot seat. And down at the bottom, 9-22 UCLA, just a real head scratcher there. Same with Colorado going 6-25. Let me know if you've seen a Pac-12 finish like this, especially in the early years of your dynasties. If that's the case, I would be interested to see later on, is this just an anomaly season for UCLA or can they bounce back next year? We'll see. Memphis wins the AAC 75-63 over Temple. Elsewhere in your finals on Selection Sunday, Arizona 68-62 over Washington State. West Virginia wins the Big 12, a competitive year in the Big 12. And the Mountaineers take an 87-77 win over Oklahoma to take the conference tourney crown. In the Big 10, Maryland 82-75 over Indiana, the best team in the Big 10 and the best team in the nation, likely your number 1 overall seed. In the ACC, a bit of a shocker. The 7-seed Virginia Tech Hokies finally healthy and getting a big win over North Carolina, 71-59. Good for the Hokies winning the ACC tournament. And now back home in the Big East, a massive upset. St. John's runs through Madison Square Garden and the Red Storm take over and win the Big East tournament. A 94-75 final. Let's see how St. John's got this one done. Per usual, just another 25-plus point effort from Posh Alexander. He had 26 in this one, went 13 of 15 from the free throw line. Overall, just a great game for him. Also, freshman Omar Stanley, 19 points in 18 minutes. And Isaiah Moore, 10 and 7, a good game for him with 3 blocks. Bit of a disappointing end to the season for Villanova. They don't take home the regular season or the conference tournament championships, even though they were the favorites for both of those. In this one, they did get a good performance from the freshman Longino. Colin Gillespie was not very good in this one, only played 9 minutes, got himself in foul trouble, and just couldn't play. It meant more minutes for Chris Archidiacono, who hasn't played very much. He's really just a reserve player. And then Justin Moore off the bench, having to play more, and went 0 for 6 from 3. And St. John's really just shut down Villanova without Gillespie. And that's the story of how St. John's upsets and runs through the Big East to guarantee themselves a spot in the NCAA tournament. And now let's go to the Selection Sunday show. If you haven't seen it before, I think you're going to enjoy it. This will give us an idea of the field as we head into March Madness. Jumping ahead to the play-in games in Dayton, 16 seeds, Navy and Kennesaw State. Bowling Green State, surprise winner in the MAC tournament. They'll be taking on the surprise winner of the Ivy, Columbia. Bad year for Columbia, but they did win the Ivy tournament. Play-in games, we have a Big Ten matchup in the first play-in game in Dayton. Michigan State 18 and 14 taking on Illinois 18 and 13. Disappointing years for both teams, especially after the dominant year Illinois had. They lost so much from last year's roster. Michigan State looking for a bounce back, and again, another play-in game appearance for the Spartans. And the other play-in game will feature SMU and Syracuse. SMU 18 and 12 on the year. That Syracuse zone, nothing to shake your head at, especially in March. We've seen what it can do, making deep runs in tournaments. And now to the Buffalo region, and Maryland will be staying in the Northeast, 31 and 3 on the season, number 1 overall seed. They'll be taking on the winner of that play-in game, Navy, Kennesaw State, and playing home games, and very close to home, Maryland to Buffalo. 2 seed in that region, Oklahoma. They'll be taking on NC Asheville. Good year for Oklahoma. A tough loss in the Big 12 finals to West Virginia. Gonzaga, the 3 seed, taking on Western Kentucky. A nice mid-major matchup there, but Gonzaga, one of the better teams in the country. That's a tough draw right now for Maryland. When you look at the top 4 seeds here, VCU, Gonzaga, Oklahoma, and Maryland, tough road ahead for the Terps. 5-12 matchup, Arizona will be taking on Mississippi State. Bulldogs 23 and 10. They were ranked for most of the season. You can see they ended just inside the top 25. Duke, Virginia. Now, in the game, sometimes you just end up seeing brackets that don't quite look like what they would look like in real life. Usually the tournament may want to try to avoid ACC teams playing like that in the first round, but we're going to get a good matchup. Duke, Virginia in the first, and the winner taking on Gonzaga. 7-10, interesting matchup of 2 teams that won their respective divisions. Texas Arlington ended the year on a 20-game win streak to earn the 7 seed. And in the 8-9, Louisville, tough finish to the season for the Cardinals. They'll be taking on the Red Raiders of Texas Tech 19 and 11, and that is your Buffalo region. Moving on to Indy, Kansas will be home in Indianapolis. 28 and 4 on the year. 16 seed UMass Lowell went 18 and 14, won the AEC, and they get the Jayhawks in the first round. 2 seed in the Indy region, your Midwest region, is Memphis. They'll be taking on Eastern Illinois. 27 and 6 Tigers on the season. I would expect to see them make a run in what is going to be Penny's first tournament appearance. Vanderbilt Manhattan. Not a likely 3-14 matchup, but Vanderbilt had a really special year behind Scottie Pippen Jr. Went 26 and 7, a great run in the SEC. SEC was competitive this year, and Vandy had a great year despite all that competition. West Virginia, South Dakota, the Mountaineers, winners of your Big 12 conference tournament. They go 24 and 10, and they've got to take on a tough one. Summit League champs South Dakota coming in 22 and 10 on the year. UNC gets a winner of the play-in game in the 5-12. Potential blue bloods matching up in that second round. You could have Michigan State, North Carolina in the second round there. And our first Big East team, Georgetown, 16th overall. They get a 6 seed, so maybe slightly underseeded here. They've got Marshall in the first round, the 11 seed, thundering Herd, 23-9. Georgetown, 22-10 on the season, led by freshman Aminu Muhammad. 7-10 matchup, Miami, Utah. Miami, 22-11. Utah, a good season, at one point favorites to win the Pac-12 tournament, but a quick out in the Pac-12 tournament drops them to a 10 seed after a 20-win season. And finally, the 8-9 in Indy is Tulsa and Alabama. Alabama, a bit of a disappointing season, even with all that talent on Nate Oates' roster. And the 1 seed in San Antonio, a bit of a surprise and now some home cooking. Longhorns with an opportunity to stay in Texas if they can make it to the regional semifinals and finals. They are a 1 seed at 26-8 on the season. They've got ETSU in the first round, who was 500 on the year. The 2 seed Ohio State Buckeyes, led by EJ Liddell and Dwayne Washington, who both returned to school with some unfinished business. They've got an opportunity to right last year's wrongs and win their first round game as a 2 seed. They'll be taking on 15 seed Central Connecticut State, 18-14, the Devils. Kentucky gets an HBCU in round 1, the 3-14 matchup of Jackson State, Deion Sanders' school, and the Kentucky Wildcats, 23-13. Kentucky, a special year. Wouldn't be surprised if Calipari makes a bit of a run in this tourney. A surprise all year was this quality of basketball played by Boise State, 27-5. They've got Elon in the first round. That's a tough matchup for them. A tough style that they'll have to be matching up with as Elon takes on Boise in the 4-13. 5-12, San Diego State gets the play-in of SMU Syracuse. So you could have a rematch of last year's San Diego State Syracuse first round matchup, or you could get the Mustangs taking on San Diego State. And another conference on conference matchup in the first round, Villanova taking on UConn. 6 seed Villanova, 22-12. Looking right now, like across the board, my Big East is going to be a little underseeded. I would have thought Villanova is a 4 or 5 seed. They end up as a 6. And UConn, after a tough finish to the season, including losing to St. John's in the conference tournament, end up as an 11 seed, having to take on the Wildcats. 7-10 Florida State, Tennessee. That's a fun matchup. 19-11 Florida State on the year. Really picked up steam in the middle of ACC play. Didn't end the year as strong, but these are both teams with some quality freshmen on the roster who may be looking to make a name for themselves in March. And finally, the 8-9, Kansas State saving Bruce Weber's job, getting off the bubble, getting into the tournament. And our other Big East team, we're expecting one more will make it. But Butler, the 1 seed who won the regular season in the Big East, they'll be in the San Antonio region as the 9 seed taking on Kansas State. And into Boise we go. Florida is your 1 seed out west, 26-8 on the year. They've got that play-in 16 seed game. LSU, the SEC team on the opposite side of the bracket, just won the SEC tournament and now gets Norfolk State in the first round of the 2-15 matchup. Indiana Loyola, that's a fun one and a great game potentially. Loyola, not one to take lightly. We've seen what that defense can do, even under a new head coach. But the Hoosiers back in the tournament after a bit of a drought, but they've got a tough one in the 3-14 matchup, but Tamar Bates will be leading the way for the Hoosiers. Wisconsin taking on Texas Rio Grande, 25-7 on the year for TRG. Wisconsin, 15th overall ranked, 22-10. They get a 4 seed in Boise. 5-12 matchup, Michigan in as a 5 seed. Good to see they ended the year nicely. They'll be taking on Weber State, 22-10 for each team in that 5-12 matchup. In the 6-11, a pair of American conference teams. You have Wichita State, 21st ranked and 24-8 on the year. Cincinnati, 21-11 overall in the 6-11 matchup. That's a tough game for both teams there in the first round. The 7-10, you've got Virginia Tech, Northwestern State. Virginia Tech just won the ACC. I would have thought they would have been ranked a little bit higher, only getting a 7 seed here, but an opportunity to make a run, especially if they can get by LSU in that second round. Virginia Tech, things may be setting up nicely for them on that side of the bracket if they're going to make a surprise run out of the 7 spot. And finally, in the 8-9, there is our last Big East team, St. John's, the 9 seed, 20-12 on the year. They just won the Big East tournament, and they'll be taking on 23-8 BYU, the Cougars, an 8 seed in Boise. And that's it. There's your tournament field. Next episode, we'll be running through round by round, highlighting some of the best games in each round of the tournament, and then we'll be crowning a national champion. One shining moment on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell so you're the first to see new videos when they come up. Hope you enjoyed this one. I'll be talking to you soon.